This is ChestertonRadio.com.
The world's great novels. This is the story of a man of character, strong and yet weak, turbulent and yet calm, hard and yet sentimental. And against his pastoral English background, he lived by his deeds and died by them, and was judged for them. The NBC University of the Air brings you the first of a 5-part radio edition of Thomas Hardy's The Mayor of Casterbridge, another in the series of books that live, the world's great novel.
One evening of late summer, some 100 years ago, a young man and a woman carrying a child trudged along a dusty road in Upper Wessex. They were clad shabbily and powdered with the thick dust of a long and weary journey. The man was of fine figure, swarthy and stern of aspect, and his measured walk was the walk of the skilled countryman. The woman was pretty, even handsome, but weariness had made her face apathetic as she plodded along by the side of her husband. Now, as they walked along the dusty, hedge-bordered road, they met a turnip hoer and hailed him.
Oh, there.
Aye. What be ye?
Can't tell my wife and me what be yon town ahead.
Why, it be Wading Priors. Everyone hereabouts knows that.
We be not from hereabouts. Be any trade doing there?
What kind of trade?
He see me knife and basket, don't he? I mean, be anything in hay-trussing line.
Well, no. How could there be now, this time of year?
Then, be there any house to let? Small cottage or like?
No. No, there's no as much as a thatched girdle to take shelter under. Wading Priors be full to haystacks. What with traders going in for fare and all.
Michael, where'll we lay our heads? Look at Elizabeth Jane, all tired out, poor child. She be needing bed, and so be we.
You let me manage that when I come to it, Susan.
But, Michael...
I've had naught from you but complaints since we began. We've slept in fields afore this, and we can again. Come, we'd best be moving along.
The hay trusser and his family entered the town and soon came to the fairgrounds. The place was dense with village folk, frivolous journeymen out for a holiday, a stray soldier or two on furlough, shopkeepers, corn merchants, and all manner of country traders. They moved about in a restless flood through the peep shows, toy stands, waxworks, and booths, as traveling medicine doctors, thimble riggers, knick-knack vendors, and readers of fate plied their wares. But Michael Henchard and his wife had little interest in these things. They were looking for a place of refreshment.
Good Burmedy sold here. Come into the tent and fill your stomach. Try me Burmedy, hot and nourishing Burmedy, the best ever brewed in Wading Priors. Hot Burmedy.
Susan, I've throat full of dust. Huh. Now, yon be booth I'd like to stop by. Good home-brewed beer, ale, and cider reads yon side.
Oh, no, Michael. Yon old woman's firmity were better.
Huh?
'Twere good and nourishing after a long, hard day.
What be this firmity? I've never tasted of it.
Why, it be kind of pudding, Michael, with grains of wheat in. You'd like it. It'd be good for Elizabeth Jane.
Still a spot of ale be thing for dry throat, and that's what we'll have.
Try me Burmedy, you rigger, you and your good wife and weary child. Come into me tent and try me Burmedy. There's corn in the grain of me Burmedy, and flour and milk and raisins and currants. And if you wish it, rum.
Rum? Ye say rum, old woman?
Aye, I've rum a-plenty to mix with. It makes a noble dish, it does, with me Burmedy. Burmedy.
Well, now, Susan, might be we ought to try a little of this firmity after all. As you say, just no doubt good and nourishing after a long, hard day.
They had a steaming pot of furmity and then another, and Michael Henchard saw that his was strongly laced with rum. At the end of the first basin, he was calm and serene. At the second, he was jovial. At the third, he began to argue. And at the fourth, his mouth clenched, his eyes sparked, and he beat his fist on the table as he addressed the company in the tent.
No, take me, Michael Henchard here. I have no more than 15 shillings to my name. And yet I challenge England to beat me in other business. Aye, were I man free of family, I'd have £1,000 before I was done. And what be ye, sir?
Me, I'm a horse auctioneer.
Aye, and a shady brood it be, selling mares with hollows to their backs, and lacking one eye.
I didn't ask you for your opinion of my profession.
Nay, but I give it thee free and
Michael,
clear.
please.
Now, what do ye want? Cannot ye see I be talking to yon gentleman?
Michael, thou sad enough. Thou'rt becoming quarrelsome. And what about our lodging? If we be not looking soon, we...
Be still, Susan. We'll go when I say we'll go. You see, sirs. You see what I've done to myself. I were married at 18, fool I were. And this be consequence to it.
Well, now, Henchard, there's nothing amiss with matrimony properly balanced.
Aye. But for my part, I see not why men who have got wives and want them not shouldn't get rid of them like this auctioneer sells his horses.
Michael!
Why not,
Well, now, I've heard of it being done, though not lately.
Aye, and so have I. Why, begad, I'd sell mine this minute. Would anybody buy her?
Michael, I don't know what thou saying.
I do, and I be saying it again. I'd sell it if it was a buyer right here and now.
Well, now, Henchard, I've had my breedings in as good circles as any man. And I know, through cultivation or nobody, that she's got it. In the boat as any female at this fair.
Hey, you'll be right, Henchard. She be a fair woman, and you're a fool to even jest at this.
Jest? Did he say jest? Well, then, now be your chance. I'm open to any offer for this gem of creation. Come, another bowl of furmity.
Henchard had another bowl, and the crowd in the tent laughed at him and told him to drop the subject. But now, along with the rum, it became an obsession.
No, here. I be waiting. This woman be no good to me. Who'll have her? Who'll buy her, I say?
Oh, Michael, be getting dark. Come, let us go. We must find lodging.
Be still, woman. See, not I be in middle of business transaction, huh? Can you not see?
That don't come along. I'll go without me.
No. I asked this question and nobody answered to it. Well, any Jack Rag or Tom Straw among you buy me good.
Oh, Michael, please, for shame. Please stop.
Who'll buy her, I say? Come. Who'll name me a price?
Who'll have me? Will somebody buy me? And I've done with this rockery.
Susan, what did he say?
I want someone to buy me since thou want it. If thou want to be rid of me, I want to be rid of thee. Only I've done with this shame.
Well, no. We both be agreed about that, eh? Very well. Gentlemen, do ye hear? There's an agreement to part. She shall take little girl if she wants, and go her ways. I'll take me tools, and I go my ways. Tis simple as scripture history. Now then, Susan, come, stand up. Show yourself.
I'll do that the quicker to be rid of thee.
Don't you, me child. Your good man don't know what he be about. He's befuddled by rum.
And he wants to sell me, old woman. I want to be bought.
I be even me own auctioneer. How much be I offered for this lady?
5 shillings.
No insults. Who'll say a guinea?
I will. Behave yourself, immoral man, for heaven's love.
Get away from me, old woman. Go back to cooking your furmity. Now then, who'll give 2 guineas for my woman?
2 guineas.
That's it. Now, who'll say 3? Who'll give 3? So be they. Good Lord, She have cost me 50 times the money if she cost me a penny. Come now, speak up. Or it will cost you 4 guineas.
That's a lot of money, Hinter.
Aye, enough to buy a good Jersey cow.
No. 'Tis settled. I won't sell her for less than 5. I'll sell her for 5 guineas to any man who'll pay me the money and treat her well. But she shan't go for less. No, not for less. Now then, for last time, 5 guineas. Does anybody give it? Last time, aye or nay?
Aye.
You there in yon doorway. We say you do?
I say I do.
Ah. Must be a sailor, eh?
I am. And a man of few words. You say 5 guineas, and I say aye.
Saying is one thing, and paying is another. Where is the money?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's the money. Well, Lenchard, if that be your name, are you serious, or are you not?
The bargain's a bargain.
Michael,
Aye, Susan.
thou can still name it joke and I'll listen. But touch yon gold, and I and Elizabeth Jane go with the man.
I said 'twas a bargain, and a bargain it be. Look, I take the money. This sailor takes you. It's plain enough, huh?
I take the lady only if she is willing. I would not hurt her feelings for the world.
I'll be willing.
That you swear?
I do swear.
Come along, then, and bring the child. The more, the merrier.
Here, Michael, I'll leave you this.
Huh?
The wedding ring. Mayhap it'll bring us still another guinea.
Be she gone? Be she really gone, then?
Ah, you fool, she's gone. You've had your devil's play, and now she's gone. And may those 5 guineas burn like fire in your hands.
The crowd left the furmity tent, looking at Michael Henchard as though he were a pariah. Dimly, he realized that he had done something awful and final. But then the rum took hold, and he fell asleep at the table, his head in his arms. When he awoke, it was morning, and the old hag was setting up her furmity bowls.
You, there, old woman.
So you come awake.
Awake, and with splitting headache. Where be me wife?
Gone.
Gone? Gone where?
As devil burned your brain. You sold her to a sailor last night. Her and little one. He took 'em both away.
I remember now. Where does the sailor live?
I don't know. I'm a stranger hereabouts.
But I've got to find him. He's got me wife. He's got Susan.
And you've got 5 guineas.
Devil take her. Did she not know better than to walk out with a stranger? Did she not know I wasn't in my senses? It was only a joke.
Ha!
She's just like Susan to be so simple and so meek. That meekness has brought me disgrace.
Aye, it has. And I own the woman will be better off rid of you. I glory in her spirit. I'd quit you myself had I been she, and I'd never come back, even though you split your gullet.
Enough of your prattle, hag. What be the sailor's name?
I know it not. I know it not, and I know not where they went.
But I've got to find her, hag. I cannot lose her. I do not want to lose her. Whatever the woman be, she be my wife. Oh, there, teamster. Will you stop for a moment?
Oh, there, miss.
Have you seen a sailor, and with him a woman carrying a child, along the road?
No, I have not. Get along there, miss. Get along.
begging your pardon, ma'am. But have you seen a sailor and a woman with a little child hereabouts?
I have not, and have no time for dirty vagrants to come asking foolish questions.
Well, now, mate, thank you for the grog. And who did you say you were looking for? I've been around these docks a long time, and I've seen a lot of lovers.
For a sailor.
Of us! This is a seaport town and full of sailors.
A sailor with a woman carrying a little girl.
Was the sailor thick-set now? And the woman pretty in a way? And the little girl wearing blue boots and knitted yarn?
Aye, man. Where are they? Where did you see them?
Well, no. I seen them go aboard a ship.
What ship? Bound for where?
Mate, I have a bad memory. I can't recall. But they are not in England anymore. Of that you may be sure.
It was then that Michael Henchard, after weary weeks and months of searching, gave up his quest. And when he finally reached a town called Casterbridge, in a far distant part of Wessex, he entered a church and went straight to the sacrarium. There, kneeling on the footpace and dropping his head on the holy book clamped on the communion table, he spoke a vow.
I, Michael Henchard, on this morning of the 16th of September, do take an oath before God. I swear that I will avoid all drink for the space of 21 years to come, being a year for every year I have lived. And this I swear upon the book before me. And may I be struck dumb, blind, and helpless if I break this, my oath.
With the tolling of the bells, we go forward in time and turn the pages of this narrative to a later 10 years have gone by since that day in Waden Priors when the Henchards went their separate ways. Now there'd been a change in the fairgrounds. Business had fallen on leaner days, and there were fewer stalls for tailors, hosiers, linen drapers, and coopers. 18 years, too, brought changes in the two women who now walked into the fairgrounds. One of them was Susan Henchard, dressed in the mourning clothes of a widow. The other was called Elizabeth Jane, a pretty girl of 18.
So this be where he first met father. Hi, Elizabeth Jane. 'Twere here and one day just like this. Oh, that Richard Newson and me were met. Oh, poor father. To mind he's gone from us now. Drowned to sea. Aye. But, mother, why be we come here now? 'Twere here that our last saw relation we be come to look for. Mr. Henchard? Aye. What be his exact kin to us, mother? He's never clearly told me. He be, or were, relation by marriage. Oh? What kind of relation? Oh, he be a distant relation. And did he never know me? No, Elizabeth Jane. He never really knew he. But, wimp over there. You mean where yon wrinkled woman stirs boiling pot? Aye. 'Tis her I wish to speak to. I recognize her even now. Do thou stay here, Elizabeth Jane. Oh, but why? I wish to speak with her alone.
Infirmity, old ear, good nourish and hot vermity to suit the king's taste. Aye, with a spot of rum to make it slip down like cordial. And only a halfpenny a cup.
Good evening.
Eh? Oh, you speak to me?
Aye. We met before. You've seen better days.
Aye. I stood in the fairgrounds, maid, wife, and widow these 39 years. And I've known what it was to do business with the richest stomachs in the land. Ma'am, you'd hardly believe I was once the owner of a great pavilion tent.
Can he call to mind the sale of wife by husband in that tent 18 years ago today?
Oh, let me see, ma'am. I've seen so many things and remember 'em well. I can mind every serious fight a married party, every murder, every pocket picking. You say a man sold his wife?
Aye, he were a rigger, and there were a child with her.
Oh, I do remember now. And the only reason I can mind is the man come back to this fair the following year.
Did he so? What for?
Oh, looking for his lost wife, it seems. And he told me quite private-like that if a woman ever asked for him, I was to say he had gone to...
Aye, tell me where.
Oh, I'm an old one, I be, ma'am. And my memory is creaky.
Oh, here be shillings. Now, where did he say he could be found?
Now I mind. 'Twas Casterbridge. Aye, a place called Casterbridge.
Now, as Susan Henchard, or Susan Newson, as she is now known, and her daughter make their way to Casterbridge, let's recount briefly Susan's adventures. The sailor had taken her to Canada, where they lived indifferently for several years. Later, they had returned to Falmouth to live. As far as Elizabeth had known, she had always been the daughter of Richard Newson. But now that Newson had been lost at sea, Susan had felt that she must search out Henchard. And so, almost penniless, they traveled by foot and farmer's wagon until they drew near the town of Casterbridge.
Mother, what old-fashioned place be this town of Casterbridge. Aye. Look, 'tis huddled all together, and 'tis shut in by square wall of trees, like 'twere plot of garden ground. I wonder if Michael be alive. And if a be, do we prosper or no? Mother, be Mr. Henchard here. Think he as he'll really do somewhat for us? I don't know, Elizabeth Jane. 'Tis hard to say. We must inquire discreetly. After all, Mr. Henchard, though he may live here, may be in disrepute, in his workhouse or in stocks for all we know. Oh, dear me, I think he's at. Oh, 'twere just something to say. 'Twere naught. But we must make private inquiries, child. Believe me, it were better that way.
And so it was that Susan and her daughter Elizabeth Jane entered the town of Casterbridge. It was an agricultural town, the center of the corn district. The sights would have been fascinating to the two women since they came from a seaport town, but now they were faint with hunger, and they inquired of a woman the way to the nearest baker's.
Well, nu, you'm strangers here, I suppose.
Aye, we be.
We don't see many strangers in Casterbridge. Is it someone you're looking for? Or someone special?
Well, there be relatives, as Wim said before. We thank you kindly if you could direct us to Baker's.
Up street and t'other side hostelry.
Thank you.
But they might well look for manna food as good bread in Casterbridge right now.
You mean there be no bread to be sold?
Aye, it's sold right enough. But t'ain't fit for eating. T'ain't one of us but wants for a decent crust right now.
How does it happen there be no good bread?
Oh, 'tis corn factor. These man all our millers and bakers deal with. And these old and bad wheat he has. Oh, why, in me own pans, dough runs over like quicksilver. And loaves be black as toads. And like zuit pudding inside. Oh, why, wow, ye be real strangers from far away to know nothing of this.
Mother, and we be here thinking what we ought to ask. No, I do not. Not yet. Come, Elizabeth. We'll thank this woman and go along to Baker.
Elizabeth, not knowing of Michael Henchard's relation to her mother, was mystified. And as for Susan, she was nervous and distraught. One great question ran through her mind. How would Michael Henchard, if he were really alive and here, receive her? It would take courage to face him now. If it weren't for Elizabeth Jane, for the long chance that Michael might help her daughter, she'd turn and go back. But now, after Elizabeth Jane and she had dulled their appetites with a few biscuits, she decided that the time had come.
Mother, there's been so much a celebration going on over by hotel. King's Arms. Look, you can see banquet through yon window on second floor. I better be not thinking on Bantwit right now. Oh, Mother, what be it? He looks so pale, so frightened. Child, I think the time be come when we should inquire about our relative, Mr. Henshaw. Aye, Mother, and be to ask. That better ask yon old man sitting on doorstep. Aye, he'd better do us alone, Mrs. Jane. I'll be too wore out to do aught. All right, Mother. I'll wait right here. And mind ye, child, do we find out how he stands in town. And don't ye rush right into questions. People will be suspicious when they ask him direct. Aye, Mother. I beg your pardon.
Well, no, lass, what be it?
Can you tell me what be going on over by hotel tonight?
Well, you must be a stranger, sure. See, up there in window
Aye?
is a great public dinner of the gentlefolk, with the mayor in the chair.
Oh.
That is, the mayor and the corn factor both, since he be one and the same.
Oh, Mayor be handsome man, bean't he?
Aye, and rich in corn and gold. There be none richer in Casterbridge than he.
Still, he must be modest man, too. See, all others be drinking wine, and Mayor drinks only water.
True. He be abstainer, not only from drink, but from women, too. For, mind you, he be widower to boot. I've heard tell he swore gospel oath in bygone times, ne'er to touch a drop for many a year. Aye, a man of strong will and principle he be.
Be Mayor long?
Aye, it is some time now, lass. But I knew him when he first came here. He was hay-rigger, mind you, with not a shilling in his pocket. And now look at him. He be Mr. Henchard, the mayor.
Mr. Henchard be mayor to Casterbridge?
Aye. But what's amiss, girl? Bedad, you've turned as pale as a sheet.
Elizabeth returned to her mother, only to find Susan staring through the banquet window at the richly dressed man seated at the head of the table. She had completely forgotten her daughter till a touch from Elizabeth Jane aroused her.
Mother, you see him. Son, no, he be mayor. Aye, child. I have seen him. It is enough for me. Now I wish only to die. Mother, what be you saying? Think not he'll befriend us? Why, he looked to be generous man, and him gentleman, too, and rich. See his diamond studs shine. Elizabeth. How strange he should have said he might be in stocks or in workhouse. And why do you feel somewhat afraid of him? I cannot face it, child. He be not what I thought he were. We must go away from here at once. No, Mother. We've come this far just to see him. And if you do not call on him, then I will.
The NBC University of the Air has brought you the first in a 5-part radio edition of The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy. Next week, we'll present the second episode. All the great novels you have heard and will hear on this series may be obtained from your local library. To those of you who have enjoyed this series and are eager to know more about the books we're opening for your pleasure, we suggest you get full value from them by reading Herbert Gorman's Handbook of the World's Great Novels. 25 cents will cover the cost of printing and mailing. Request for this handbook should be mailed to the World's Great Novels, Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27, New York. The script you have just heard was adapted for radio by Max Ehrlich. Members of the cast included Boris Aplon as Henchard, Alma Platts as Susan, Geraldine Kay as Elizabeth Jane, and Donald Gallagher as the narrator. Others included Hilda Graham, Hope Summers, Wilms Herbert, Kurt Kupfer, Cliff Norton, and Fred Sullivan. The music was composed by Emil Soderstrom. The orchestra was conducted by Joseph Galicchio. The entire production was under the direction of Homer Heck. This
Listening
is
to
NBC,
Chesterton Radio
the
at
national-
chestertonradio.com.
The world's great novels. This is the story of Michael Henchard, a man of character. He was strong and yet weak, turbulent and yet calm, hard and yet sentimental. And among the farming people of Wessex 100 years ago, he lived by his deeds and died by them and was judged for them. The NBC University of the Air brings you the third of a 5-part radio edition of Thomas Hardy's The Mayor of Casterbridge, another in the series of books that live, the world's great novels.
A long time ago, Michael Henchard had sold his wife and daughter to a sailor named Newson. Many years later, Newson was reported lost at sea, and Susan Henchard and her daughter sought Michael out at Casterbridge, where he was now a rich corn merchant and the mayor. Henchard, struck with remorse, remarried Susan and renounced his clandestine affection for Lucetta Templeton. Meanwhile, Henchard had hired a young Scotsman, Donald Farfrae, as his superintendent. For a while they were close friends, but as time went on, the able young Scot became immensely popular and highly respected in Casterbridge, and Henchard, wrongly suspecting Farfrae of trying to undermine his prestige, finally discharged him. Our story goes on now as Donald Farfrae prepared to leave Casterbridge. But then Elizabeth Henchard came to see him.
Donald,
Aye, Elizabeth?
be there no chance of reconciliation twixt thee and my stepfather?
None. I'm afraid we have broken for good.
What will thou do now?
Well, I've always wanted to go see the world, to travel.
No, Donald, do not go. Stay here, in Casterbridge,
Stay here. Why?
because I beg thee to.
Elizabeth, what do you mean?
I just do not want thee to go. Oh, Donald, what shameful talk be this. Have I been too bold?
No. I wish I could be bold and say what is in my heart. If I had not quarreled with your stepfather, if I were richer than I am, I would say it no. But I haven't the right. I cannot.
I know. But, Donald, it will not go away. Thou stay.
Aye, Elizabeth. If you so wish it, I'll stay in Casterbridge.
Thus, Donald Farfrae made his decision. And having made it, he bought out a small corn and hay business and set up a trade of his own on Durnover Hill. When Michael Henchard heard of it, his face became purple with anger, and he took it as a personal insult. He called in his daughter and spoke his mind to her.
The gall of that young whelp. Why, I befriended him, helped him to make a living, called him friend. And now he sets up business in competition to me.
Still, I think not he did it for any personal motive, Father. 'Tis the business he knows best.
Do you take me for a fool, Elizabeth? Do you not think I know what he's up to? He's out to harm me in any way he can. But I'll have a tussle with him, I will.
Father, I do not think you're giving Donald Mr. Farfrae fair chance.
You seem to take his side, Elizabeth.
No, it be not that, only...
Look here, child. I know you've been seeing that young stripling now and then, but you have not made him any promise, have you?
No, I've promised him not.
Good. All's well that ends well. I particularly wish you not to see him again. Well?
If that be your wish, sir.
It is. I consider him my bitter enemy and yours.
Henchard wrote a note to Farfrae forbidding him to see Elizabeth. The young Scot, not wishing to get Elizabeth in trouble with her stepfather, took it at face value, and the incipient romance died down. But the rivalry of the two men flared higher than ever, and they closed in mortal commercial combat. and the whole town of Casterbridge talked about it.
I'll do my corn trading with Farfrey now. The young fella's sharp and fair alike. He's bound to come up, mark me.
Aye, perhaps young Don'll be better man. But Mayor Henchard's got the capital and credit. He can outbid and outsell the Scot. I'll stick with Michael Henchard.
Them both be honest and fair when it comes to hay and wheat. But the nub of the difference be this. Farfrey deals smile along with his wheat, and Henchard sours grain with his scowl.
Little by little, Donald Farfrey began to give Henchard serious competition, and the town itself split into two camps. Henchard fought savagely with every trick he knew, trying to drive Donald into bankruptcy. But the young Scot took every blow and kept on coming. Then, suddenly, tragedy struck in the Henchard household. While Henchard himself was away on a business trip, Susan Henchard suffered a serious stroke. By morning, she was close to death, and she called for her daughter.
Elizabeth. Elizabeth, Mother, I'd be right by thee. Oh, my dearie, little daughter. I have only little while longer.
Mother, thou must not say it. You must try to sleep now.
Be not afeard to go, Elizabeth. But 'tis thee I be feared to leave as things be now. Child, listen.
Mother.
Under pillow, let her be for a stepfather.
Mother. Here I have it.
Read what is this on outside.
Mr. Michael Henchard, not to be opened until Elizabeth Jane's wedding day.
Mother,
what be it? What?
Give it to him. He will tell thee at proper time.
Mother?
And thus the woman whom Michael Henchard had once wronged passed into another world, leaving him free again. As for Elizabeth, she had always supposed herself to be the daughter of Richard Newson, the sailor, and while her mother had been alive, she had never been told her real parentage. But now, Michael Henchard felt that the time had come.
Elizabeth, do you think much of old times?
I, sir, often.
Who do you put in thy pictures of him?
My poor dead mother and my father, lost at sea.
I see. Thy father. Was Newson a kind parent to thee?
Aye, sir, very.
Elizabeth, child, suppose I had been thy real father.
Thee, sir?
Aye. Could he care for me as much as he cared for Richard Newson?
I do not know. Why do we ask?
Because, Elizabeth Jane, thy blood is my blood. I be thy real father.
It was then that Michael Henchard told Elizabeth the full story. She listened in stunned silence. Then she burst out in a fit of weeping.
No, child, do not cry. I cannot bear it. Why should he cry?
I cannot help it.
I be thy father, and I be here alive. Be this cause for sorrow, child? Be I so dreadful, so hateful to you?
No.
Do not take against me, Elizabeth Jane. I'll be kinder to you than Richard Newson ever was. I'll do anything if you will only look upon me as thy father. Do we not see, daughter? You be all I have in the world now. Now that thy mother be dead, there be no need to keep the secret any longer. You'll change thy surname from Newson to Henchard, of course. My name belongs to 'ee now, right and proper.
If thou wish it.
I do. Thy mother was always against it, but it will be much more pleasant to me.
I wonder why Mother was against it.
Oh, some whim of the poor soul, no doubt. But now, child, go to bed. It's been a difficult day.
Good night, Father.
Good night, daughter.
That night, Henchard looked at the letter which Elizabeth had given him, the letter from his wife as she lay on her deathbed. The seal had cracked open, and although he was not supposed to open the letter until Elizabeth's wedding day, Henchard's curiosity was intrigued. He resisted for a while, but the broken seal caught his eye again. Finally, he unfolded the letter and began to read.
My dear Michael, when you read this, I shall be in my grave, and Elizabeth Jane will have a home of her own. This is a confession of a secret I have kept from you till now. Forgive me, Michael. I have done it for the best, and now I can hardly tell you. But here it is.
You see, Michael, Elizabeth Jane is not your Elizabeth Jane, the child who was in my arms when you told me. Nay, she died 3 months after that, and Elizabeth you now know is Richard Newson's daughter. I christened her by the same name as the other, and she filled up the ache of my loss. Michael, Michael, I am dying, and I might have killed my son, but I could not. Please try to forgive if you can. A woman thou once deeply wronged, as she forgives me. Susan Henchard.
For a while, Michael Henchard sat there like a graven image, staring at the letter as though it were a window pane through which he saw for miles. Now he understood why Susan had been against Elizabeth's changing her name from Newson to Henchard. Now he knew what suffering was. Henchard felt himself alone. His wife was dead, he had no children, and his best friend, Donald Farfrae, had become his mortal competitor. He was in the mood to snatch at any straw of human companionship, and suddenly he thought of Lucetta Templeton, the woman he had considered marrying before Susan had come back to him. Feverishly, he wrote her a letter informing Miss Templeton of his wife's death and begging her indulgence again if she was still interested in him. As for Elizabeth Jane, she was hurt and bewildered by Henchard's sudden coolness. Almost overnight, he had changed from a tender father to a hostile stranger. And as the days went on, it grew worse and worse.
Father, if you bide where you be a minute, I will get the breakfast.
Bide where you be. Good heavens, girl, what manner of speech is this? Are you only fit to carry wash to a pig trough that you use such words as those?
I'm sorry, Father. I meant stay where you are.
Well, where have you been dawdling this time?
Why,
I was just walking in the churchyard, Father.
Will you stop calling me father? Father, father, father. Begad, it's beginning to hurt my ears. And I'll thank you not to use it so free.
As life in Henchard's home grew more and more unbearable, Elizabeth, depressed and downhearted, took to visiting her mother's grave in the churchyard. She was standing there one afternoon, silently contemplating the tombstone, when a beautiful and fashionable lady, a stranger to Casterbridge, came up the walk.
Good afternoon. Oh, I did not see thee. Good afternoon. I'm sorry if I startled you. Oh, 'tis all right. This grave. Is it your mother's? Yes. Then you must be Elizabeth Jane Henchard, eh? Why, yes. How did they know? I knew your father a long time ago. Oh, I see. Has he made you unhappy, too? Why, I seem to read my mind. No, not exactly. You see, Mr. Henchard has a way of making the women he knows unhappy. Still, he's not a bad man at heart. Oh, no, certainly not bad. Yet he had been unkind to you. Yes, but not till lately. Until after Mother died. You'll be stranger hereabouts, aren't you? Yes. As a matter of fact, I only arrived yesterday. My name is Lucetta Templeton. Oh, Lucetta Templeton. It is a pretty name. Your father, Mr. Henchard, never spoken of me? No. He rarely speaks to me of anything nowadays. Look here, Elizabeth Jane. It's plain you're not happy in his house. Would you like to come and live with me? Live with you? Yes, I know this is quite sudden, but you see, I've rented High Place Hall, and I shall be living in Casterbridge for a time, and I should want somebody to live with me. Partly as housekeeper, partly as companion. Oh, Miss Templeton. It would give you a chance to be independent, you know. Oh, yes, it would be wonderful, Miss Templeton. But I would have to ask my father. Of course. I understand. Suppose you ask him tonight, and let me know in the morning.
At that very moment, when Elizabeth Jane and Lucetta Templeton met in the churchyard, Henchard was in his office reading a note from Lucetta in which she informed him she'd come to live in Casterbridge and was quite willing to resume their old friendship. She warmly invited him to visit her at High Place Hall. This news came as a pleasant surprise to Michael Henchard. He was a lonely man, and Lucetta could dispel that loneliness. There was only one fly in the ointment, Donald Farfree. He was the only man who knew of Henchard's relations with Lucetta, and the mayor cursed his brash folly in confiding the affair to the young Scot when they'd first met. That evening, Elizabeth Jane approached him.
Father.
Aye? What is it?
Have you any objections to my going away?
Going away? No, none whatever. Where are you going?
I have been offered chance in household where I can learn something of refined life.
I see. Then I say take it and make the best of it. In fact, I'll help you along, give you a small annuity so you'll really be independent. Would that please you?
Yes, Father, if you so wish it.
I do. When shall you be leaving?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Oh, Caesar, you take time by the forelock. Well, have your own way. By the way, where will your new position be?
High Place Hall.
High Place Hall?
Why, yes, Father. What is wrong?
Nothing. You just took me by surprise, that is all.
So Lucetta Templeton had taken Elizabeth Jane into her employment. The news made Henchard uneasy. To his masculine mind, this maneuver smacked of some kind of feminine trickery. And on his first visit to Lucetta, he broached his question.
Look here, Lucetta. There is something I do not understand. Why did you take in my daughter as your companion?
Well, you see, Michael, I met your daughter quite by accident in the churchyard.
Huh?
It seems that you've been unkind to her. And being a woman myself, and knowing what it is to be without love, I took compassion on her.
Now then, Lucetta, you don't need to play buff with me. I know you well, and I know that what you've done is to your own advantage. What is the real reason you took on Elizabeth, Jane?
Oh, Michael, you men are so simple. Can't you see? Your wife has only recently died, has she not?
Aye, but what is...
And as Mayor of Casterbridge, it wouldn't look right and proper to visit a lady so soon after your good wife's decease. Would it?
No, to be sure it would not.
But can anyone object if a father comes to see his daughter, as a father should?
Huh?
Of course, she's at my house. And if I happen to be around every time you call, that's natural enough, isn't it?
By gad, Lucetta, you are a clever minx. Of course. What is more right and proper than for a man to pay a call on his own daughter as often as he pleases?
Now, it so happened that Henchard, after discovering that Elizabeth Jane was really the daughter of Richard Newson, had written a note to Donald Farfrae, giving the Scot permission to resume his courtship if he so wished. Vaguely, Henchard had hoped that if the romance could be resumed, with Donald marrying Elizabeth Jane as the end product, then he would thus be rid of her. For some time, Donald did not take advantage of this opportunity. But as his business grew, he thought of a wife, and Elizabeth Jane seemed to fill all his requirements. Moreover, marriage to her might bring about a reconciliation with Henchard, which the young Scot sincerely desired. And so it was that he came calling at High Place Hall. Elizabeth Jane was out, but Lucetta Templeton, who received him, found herself developing a warm interest in the handsome young business rival of Henchard.
You know, Mr. Farfrae, I find you a very interesting young man.
And I find you, Miss Templeton, a charming and beautiful lady.
You speak amenities, of course, but nevertheless it is pleasing to hear them.
I would not call them amenities. No, not exactly.
Well, what else could they be, sir? We've known each other for only such a little while.
True, Miss Templeton, but I'm a man of quick judgment and on the serious side. I put a good deal of store by first impressions. Still, I suppose I have not the right to say things like these.
And why not, Mr. Farfrae?
Let me put it this way. A struggling hay and corn merchant like myself should limit his thoughts to those in keeping with his station. And you, Miss Templeton, are a woman of wealth and good position.
But above all, I am a woman. Never forget that, Mr. Farfrae.
Miss Templeton, I cannot help but read a certain significance in what you just said.
I want you to. As I said, I find you very interesting.
Then I may come another time?
Of course. Come and see Elizabeth Jane any time you like.
I'm not referring to Elizabeth Jane, Miss Templeton. I am referring to you.
Mr. Farfrae, I cannot say any more than this now. The doors of High Place Hall are open to you whenever you choose to come.
The friendship between Lucetta and Donald Farfrae took root and ripened. Lucetta made judicious inquiries around Casterbridge and discovered that Donald was on his way up as a merchant and indeed was giving Henchard a serious struggle. This sharpened her interest in the young Scot even more. She remained affectionate with Elizabeth Jane, but the next time Henchard called, she quickly developed a headache and refused to see him. After a number of rebuffs from Lucetta, Michael Henchard realized that his romance was growing cool. He watched High Place Hall and saw Donald Farfrae admitted by Lucetta time and again. His face darkened in anger, and he realized that his rival once again was humiliating him and interfering with his life. First, he had tried to steal his, Henchard's, business. Now, Farfrae was trying to steal the woman he loved and hoped to marry. Grimly, Michael Henchard demanded to see Lucetta and forced the issue.
Look here, Lucetta. You came to Casterbridge to see me, to resume our old relationship, did you not? Did you or did you not?
Yes, Michael, I did.
Very well, then. I am ready, as soon as custom will permit, to give you my name, in return for your devotion.
Then this is a proposal of marriage?
It is. We have been close to each other, you and I, Lucetta. Perhaps unseemly close and open to gossiping tongues. Now, it is time that chapter was over. I leave it to you to fix the time and date.
Well, I don't know, Michael. It's still early. And marriage is such a serious affair. Perhaps for a time you ought to treat me as an acquaintance, and I'll treat you the same.
Oh?
And...
So that is the way the wind blows, is it?
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, do you not?
Michael, what are you trying to say?
I am saying that there is another man, and his name is Donald Farfrae.
Michael, no, it is true that Donald's become my friend.
Enough,
but...
Lucetta. What manner of fool do you take me for? Now then, choose. Who will it be? Farfrae or myself?
Michael, you've no right.
Choose, Lucetta, and choose now. No, there is no need to say it. I see it in your eyes. You've thrown me over in favor of Farfrae.
You've no right to bind me. I'll not be a slave to the past. I'll love where I choose.
That may be difficult, my dear Lucetta.
What do you mean?
The people of Casterbridge are straight-laced and very proper. If they knew about you and me, what we were to each other, they might resent it.
You mean you tell them?
If you married Farfrae, I might.
How could you?
I could and I would. I'd rather see you dead than marry Donald Farfrae. Before I'd let him take you from me, I'd crush you both, like I'd crush two worms under my heavy shoe.
Michael, I can't believe you became...
Then you do not know me, Lucetta, my dear. You do not know what my hate is for Donald Farfrae. Marry him. Only marry him, I say, and you'll find out how Michael Henchard can hate. Think it over, Lucetta. Think it over very carefully, my dear.
Michael!
The NBC University of the Air has brought you the third in a 5-part radio edition of The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy. Next week, we'll present the 4th episode. To those of you who have enjoyed this series and are eager to know more about the books we're opening for your pleasure, we suggest you get full value from them by reading Herbert Gorman's Handbook of the World's Great Novels. 25 cents will cover the cost of printing and mailing. Requests for this handbook should be mailed to The World's Great Novels, Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27, New York. The script you have just heard was adapted for radio by Max Ehrlich. Members of the cast included Boris Aplon as Henchard, Alma Platz as Susan, Geraldine Kay as Elizabeth Jane, William Everett as Farfrae, Muriel Bremner as Lucetta, and Donald Gallagher as narrator. Others were Hope Summers, Wilms Herbert, and Fred Sullivan. The music was composed by Emil Soderstrom, and the orchestra was conducted by Joseph Galicchio. The entire production was under the direction of Homer Heck. The veteran learned many new skills while in the Army that can be put to excellent use in business and industry. Remember this when employing new men, and investigate those veterans now working for you to see if they're not capable of holding more important and useful positions. This is NBC,
Chesterton Radio,
the national
your home for
broadcasting...
podcasts of works by G.K. Chesterton, plus drama, comedy, mystery, science fiction, big bands, and much more. The soundtrack to your Chesterton day at ChestertonRadio.com.
Great novels.
you the story of Michael Henchard, a man of character. He was strong and yet weak, turbulent yet calm, hard and yet sentimental. And among the farming people of England's Wessex 100 years ago, he lived by his deeds and died by them and was judged for them. The NBC University of the Air brings you the fourth of a 5-part radio edition of Thomas Hardy's The Mayor of Casterbridge, another in the series of books that live, the world's great novels.
When Susan Henchard had died, she had revealed a secret. Her daughter, Elizabeth Jane, was not Michael Henchard's daughter, but really the child of Richard Newson, the sailor lost at sea. This discovery embittered Henchard, and he took his resentment out on Elizabeth Jane. It was then that Lucetta Templeton, an old flame of the mayor's, came to Casterbridge. They had been lovers before, and now Henchard, a very lonely man, planned to marry her. But Lucetta, who had hired Elizabeth Jane as her companion, became attracted to Henchard's bitter personal and business rival, Donald Farfrae. And Henchard swore to Lucetta that before he'd let her marry the young Scot, he'd blacken her reputation with scandal by revealing the close nature of their old friendship to the straight-laced people of Casterbridge. Now, Henchard, inflamed at Donald Farfrae, resolved to ruin him in the grain market. As the first step in that process, he hired a new foreman named Jop, a hard man not noted for his scruples.
Now, Jop, listen to me. There's one thing I want above all things.
Aye, Mr. Henchard.
I'm the biggest corn and hay dealer in these parts, and I'll brook no competition. Donald Farfrae must be cut out. You hear?
Aye?
Casterbridge is too small for both of us. If one has to go, it's going to be Farfrae.
That's all very well, sir, but how are you going to dislodge him? He's a shrewd trader.
He's not shrewder than Michael Henchard. I'm going to beat him by fair competition, Jop. I'm going to make such desperate bid for the farmer's custom as will grind him into the ground and starve him out.
But you're bound to lose revenue by bidding low, Mr. Henchard.
True. But I've more capital than he has, mind you. And I can do it.
Aye. But you seem uncommon set on ruining him, sir.
I've got other than just business reasons, Jop. I've got personal reasons, too. Mark me, the lad. This Farfrae's finished. I'm going to undersell him and overbuy him, and in the end, snuff him out.
Henchard and his foreman Jop went into the details of their scheme to ruin Farfrae, and the weather seemed to favor them. The weather was the big question mark in Wessex. Everything depended on it, and everything was the grain crop. A bad harvest would double the price of corn, and good prospects would lower it as much. Thus, the men of Casterbridge anxiously watched the weathercocks. As for Michael Henchard, he foresaw, and Jop agreed with him, but just to back his judgment, he visited a local forecaster called Wido.
Now then, Wido, answer me this. Can you forecast the weather?
Aye, with labor and time and for a consideration.
And take this. 'Tis a crown piece.
Ah.
Now, what is the harvest fortnight to be? Will it be fair or foul?
You ask me, and now I will tell you. By the sun, moon, and stars, by the clouds, the winds, the trees, and the grass, the candle flame and swallows, the smell of the herbs, likewise by the cat's eyes, the ravens, the leeches, and the spiders. The last fortnight in August will be rain and tempest.
You are sure of this? You are certain?
Aye, as certain as anyone can be in a world where all's unsure.
The next day, Henchard bought grain to such an enormous extent that Casterbridge buzzed with excitement.
Why, Mrs. Coxon, Mayor's bought fortune in corn.
Aye, his bins be stuffed with it, and ricks stacked with it.
Which way do weathercocks point?
To southwest, and all's fair. But Mr. Enchard speculates on rain.
Look here, Maggie. Another hot and fair day.
Aye, and Mayor's choked with corn.
And to market going down, and corn cheaper every day.
Poor Mr. Enchard. Having to sell him grain at many shillings a quarter cheaper as him bought it.
Aye, the weather be fair, and yet it's played him dirty.
Did you hear? Did you hear?
No, Christopher.
Why, Mrs.
What?
Coxon, it's all about the town. Sun keeps a-shining, and harvest good, and the mayor's lost a fortune.
And what about young Mr. Farfrae?
Yeah, there's a shrewd one, that young Scot. He must have magic glass to foretell the harvest. He bought little and saved his capital.
The sun mocked Henchard, burned him within. He shook his fist at it, cursed it. For weeks it had the hue of tin, and later assumed the color of topaz, and not a rain cloud appeared in the sky. He had backed bad weather and lost. The forecaster Wido had been wrong, and now he was forced to unload his grain at a staggering loss. Henchard, in a boiling frenzy, looked about for someone to blame, and Jop, who was with him in the marketplace, was convenient.
Well, it's another fine hot day, Mr. Enchard.
Aye, you can wipe your forehead and say a fine hot day. But if it hadn't been for your blasted advice, Jop, it might have been a fine day enough.
My advice, sir?
Your advice, Jop, blast you. Why, a word of doubt from you, a word of caution, and I'd have thought twice.
Now, wait a minute, Mr. Enchard. I nor no man can foretell the weather.
No, but you might have given me a word of restraint. And because you didn't, I've lost heavy. Then that Donald Farfrae over there cleaned up. Why, if this goes on, he'll be Mayor of Casterbridge instead of me.
Let's look it in the eye, Mr. Enchard. He guessed the weather right, and we was wrong.
What? You're impertinent, Jop.
I tell the truth.
Begad, you're implying that Farfrae's a better man than I. I'll thank you to keep a cautious tongue in your head. You hear me, Jop?
It's you who are throwing coal on the fire, not I.
Enough! I'll take no more from you, Jop. You're discharged from my employ as of now. You hear me? You're sacked.
You'll be sorry for this, Mr. Enchard. Sorry as a man can be.
Ah, you blast.
Oh, Mayor, Mr. Henchard.
What is it, Farfrae?
They tell me the market's put you in a tight corner.
Well, what have you come to do? Make a holiday of it?
No, Mr. Henchard. I come to express my sympathy. Believe me, I am sorry, and I hope you recoup.
You do?
With all my heart.
Why? Why do you express these sentiments to me?
Because once we were friends instead of rivals, and because I would renew that friendship if I could.
Well, now, listen to me, Farfrae. What we were never can be again. 'Tis true that I've had a little setback, but I've still capital left, and you'll feel the weight of it in time to come.
Almost on the eve of harvest, Farfrae suddenly switched into a buying mood and picked up grain at rock-bottom prices. Then, as if by a signal, the sun was blotted out, and the heavens seemed to open in rainy tempest. The air felt as though watercress could grow in it. It rubbed people's cheeks like wet flannel. The price of grain shot up, and Farfrae made a great profit on the rise of the market. But Michael Henchard stood in the fields and stared up at the wet sky, dazed and heartsick.
Go on. Rain. Drown the earth. Forecaster was right. I should have held on to my wheat a little longer. I'd have made the profit, not Farfrae. Now I am ruined. Even the heavens are laughing at me. But Michael Henson is not through yet. You hear? I'll fight as long as there's fight in me, to the bitter end.
Thus Michael Henchard spoke, but already his power and prestige were beginning to wane as the star of Donald Farfrey rose high in the heavens. He saw the young Scot walking through the fields, hand in hand with Lucetta Templeton, and his hatred flared to a white-hot heat. Finally, unable to endure it any longer, he went to High Place Hall, resolved to come to a decision with Lucetta.
Look here, Lucetta. I have a little matter to remind you of which you seem to forget.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
You will hear it. You came to Casterbridge to marry me. Here I am. When shall we name the hour and date?
No, Michael, there can be no marriage between us.
Is it because I have lost my money?
No.
Then it's Donald Farfrey for sure.
Yes. For sure.
I see. I suspected it before and accused you of it. But now I am certain, from your own lips. And be assured of this, Lucetta. I'll not let him have you.
How can you interfere? How can you say this?
Because I am as good a man as he is.
If you were as good as he, you'd leave me.
No, Lucetta. I want you myself, and I'll have you. You'll marry me, or I'll tell the people of the town that we were sweethearts long ago.
No, you couldn't.
But I could. In fairness to other men. In fairness to Farfrey himself, I certainly would. Well, Lucetta, will you marry me now?
Yes. It seems I have no choice.
Now you're being sensible. Here, I'll ring for Elizabeth Jane.
Why do you want her here?
As a witness. I am a stickler for what is right and proper.
Good evening, Father.
Well, Elizabeth Jane, you're looking well. Very well indeed.
Miss Templeton, you look so pale. Is something wrong?
No. No, nothing's wrong.
Elizabeth Jane, there is something I want you to hear.
Yes, Father?
The answer to a question. Now then, Lucetta, will you or will you not marry me?
If you wish it, then I must agree.
Then you say aye.
Now, Michael, will you go?
Very well. I'll bid good evening to you both.
Miss Templeton, what has happened? You called my father Michael, as if you knew him well.
Yes. I told you I knew him long ago.
But you do not want to marry him. I can see that in your face, in your eyes. What power does he have over you that he can force you to marry him against your will?
Someday, Elizabeth Jane, you'll find out. I can't tell you now. But one day you'll know everything.
Michael Henchard had scored a temporary victory. In his heart, he knew that he was marrying Lucetta Templeton not so much for the fact that he wanted her for himself, but rather to hurt the man he hated over all men, Donald Farfrey. But he did not know even then what fate was holding in store for him. The next morning, as mayor and town magistrate, he sat as judge in petty sessions. A filthy old woman was on trial for vagrancy and disturbing the peace. And just as Henchard was about to sentence her, the old hag spoke up.
Ye cannot sentence me. Ye up there in judge's seat. Ye've no right to sit in judgment on me.
I have not. And why not, old woman?
Because you know better than me. And I can be judged only by me betters. You laugh, do ye? Well, listen to me then. 20 years ago, I was a-selling the vermity in a tent at Wayne Fair.
We don't care to hear your life's history, old woman.
Wait, Clark. Let her speak. Old woman, do you say you sold Vermity at Wayton? Wayton Priors?
Hey, Judge. A man and a woman and a child came into me tent, and the man, being drunk, sold his wife and child for 5 guineas. A scandalous affair it was, and the man should be hung for it. Judge?
You, know this man now?
I know him. It was ye, Judge. Ye were the man what done this foul deed, and you've no right to judge me now.
The news created a sensation in the courtroom. Without another word, Michael Henchard tore off his judicial robes and walked out. Like wildfire, the news spread through Casterbridge. Idlers in front of the town hall, the merchants along High Street, the toilers in the fields, they all buzzed with it. The great man, the mayor, Mr. Henchard, had fallen into disrepute. And then, finally...
By popular vote of the people of Casterbridge, counted in front of and by the commissioners of the town council, it has been ascertained that our new mayor is Mr. Donald Farfrae.
One by one, the blows drove Michael Henchard further and further down like a sledge hammering a spike into the earth. He was a man twisted and torn and stripped of everything that made life worthwhile to him. His back against the wall financially, his reputation blackened and ruined, his hated rival, now Mayor of Casterbridge, and the bitter gall of seeing Donald Farfrae's star rise as his went down. But he still had Lucetta Templeton, and now he needed her more than ever.
Lucetta, I need your help.
Do you want me to advance you some money, Michael?
No. I am not the man to sponge on a woman. But this is the way of it, Lucetta. My chief creditor is a man named Grower.
Grower?
Aye. He can ruin me if he decides to close in now. But if I have a fortnight, I can pull through.
What do you want me to do?
Go to Grower. Ask him to wait a fortnight. Tell him we are to be married. I know that you are quite friendly with him, Lucetta, and I am sure he will grant your request.
Michael, I can't.
No? Why not? It is such a little thing.
I just can't.
Suppose you tell me why you are so reluctant to do me this favor. Why, Lucetta?
Because Mr. Grower was a witness.
A witness? Of what?
Michael, please don't upbraid me, please.
What was Mr. Grower a witness of, Lucetta?
My marriage.
Marriage?
Yes. To Donald Farfrae. We were married at Port Brady a week ago. Mr. Grower was there at the time and served as a witness.
You were pledged to me, and you married him. The man I hate more than anything on earth. And you sneaked off and married him.
Michael, don't be cruel. I love him so much. I had to marry him at once before you told him of our past together. I knew I should lose him if he heard any scandal.
I see. You are a clever woman, Lucetta.
Michael, for the love of heaven, don't tell him about us now. I beg you, Michael, please listen to me.
You played me false. I should punish you the way you deserve. One word to this new husband of yours of how you courted me, and your precious happiness is blown to bits.
I'll do anything, Michael. I'll give you money. I'll help you pay off your debts.
You do not know me even yet, Lucetta. Me, a pensioner of Donald Farfrae's wife? No, not me. I'd see you and your money rot first.
Oh, Michael, have pity on me. This is the first happiness I've ever had. The first security. The first real chance. Don't ruin me now. Don't ruin me now. If you do, I shall kill myself.
Henchard, under the influence of Lucetta's tearful pleading, decided to remain silent a while. But further events conspired to send him spiraling downward, broken and beaten. As he walked, he looked more at the pavements and less into the eyes of men he once knew and stared down. Now he was a social pariah and practically a pauper. The creditors called for their money, and he could not satisfy them. And so he went before the council commissioners in bankruptcy, with Mayor Farfrey regretfully presiding, and signed away his lands and house and furnishings to be sold at auction to pay his debts. Now he stood stripped of all that had symbolized his power and glory. Once more, he was nobody. And then, one day, he met Jop, the old foreman he had fired when fortune turned against him.
Well, Mr. Henchard, you're beginning to look a bit down at the heels, ain't you now?
My looks be me own business, and I'll thank you not to talk to me.
You can't be a chooser now, you know. I'm one of the few in Casterbridge who'll give you a word these days. I suppose you'll be leaving soon.
I keep my intentions to myself, and you might do the same.
Hoity-toity, Mr. Once-upon-a-time Mayor. I suppose you haven't heard that Mayor Farfrey and his wife have gone into their new house today.
Huh? What new house?
Why, your old one, of course.
My house?
Aye. They bought it at auction, and your furniture, too.
My house? My furniture? Gad, how much can a man stand, Jop? How much? If I stay here any longer, he'll own me body and soul.
Ah, then you are going to leave after all.
Aye. Does not matter if anyone knows now. I'm leaving Casterbridge tomorrow.
The news spread through Casterbridge, as all news does, and finally it reached Donald Farfrey's ears. The young Scot hurried to the humble cottage where Henchard was now living and rapped on the door.
Come in. Farfrey.
Hi. I want to speak to you, Michael. I've heard you're leaving town.
Aye.
What will you do? Where will you go?
I came to Casterbridge as a hater, sir. I can leave it as one. I still have my knife and wimble and basket, and no man can take them away from me.
Michael, now listen to me. Stay here in Casterbridge.
Huh? And do what?
Michael, I must ask you a question, man to man. I ask you to forget your pride and what has gone before. I ask you to believe me when I say I do not speak out of pity.
Well, what is it, Farfrey?
Will you stay in Casterbridge and work for me?
Work for you?
Aye. You'll do much better with me than for strangers. And you know grain in spite of your misfortunes.
No. No, it is kind of you, but I cannot.
You should, Michael. You know where you owe it to me.
Huh? I owe it to you.
Aye. Remember when I first came here? I wanted to leave. You persuaded me to stay and work for you.
I remember.
I stayed against my will, and later was happy. You can do the same. Now, Michael, I ask you again. Will you stay and work for me?
Very well, Donald. I'll stay. And thank you for it.
There's no thanks needed. And, oh, Michael, by the way.
Aye?
You heard I bought your furniture?
So I heard.
Well, I did not want it for myself. It's worth more to you than to me, for sentiment's sake. Come and pick out what you need.
Huh? Donald, sometimes I think I've wronged you.
Now the pendulum had swung its full, far course. Now Henchard was working as a hay trusser, his occupation of long ago. Thus he had come to Casterbridge 20 years ago, and to this he had returned, working as a laborer in the barns and granaries which once he had owned, but that now belonged to Donald Farfrae. He had felt a momentary gratitude to the Scot, but now the humility of his position preyed upon him, and his old hatred returned. He brooded on it, and spoke of it to Elizabeth Jane.
There he be, Elizabeth Jane. There he be, sitting in the old place, the mayor's chair, and living in the fine house, and laughing at me working in the hayricks.
No, Father. I'm quite sure Mr. Farfrae isn't laughing at you.
No? Then he pities me. That is even worse. Well, it'll only be 12 days more. Only 12 days more, and there'll be an escape.
Father, what do you mean, 12 days more? What escape?
You will see, Elizabeth Jane. You will see.
12 days later, the denizens at the Inn of the Three Mariners were startled to see Michael Henchard come into the door and advance to the bar. There was a grim, set look on his face, a wild flame in his eyes. He smashed his heavy fist upon the bar.
Whiskey, keeper! Whiskey! And be quick about it.
Whiskey for you, Mr. Henchard, but you've never taken a drink.
Aye, I be a man of my word. I swore an oath never to take a drink of spirits for 21 years. Now that time be over, and my oath be done. Well, keeper, what are you standing there for? You heard me, did you not? Whiskey!
Aye, sir.
That's it. That's what I've needed these 21 years. That's what I need to stand me up when I do him in.
Do who in, Mr. Henchard?
Donald Farfrae. Who else?
Oh, well, now.
Well, what are you staring at me for? Did you think I'd stand by and see him take everything away from me? Did you? By heaven, no. I be still a better man than he be. Aye, better than he be. I'll break him like I broke that glass upon the floor. Mark me. It's the word of Michael Henchard. I'll break Donald Farfrae if it's the last thing I do.
The NBC University of the Air has brought you the fourth in a 5-part radio edition of The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy. Next week, we'll bring you the final episode. All the great novels you've heard on this series may be obtained from your local library. To those of you who have enjoyed this series and are eager to know more about the books we're opening for your pleasure, we suggest that you get full value from them by reading Herbert Gorman's Handbook of the World's Great Novels. 25 cents will cover the cost of printing and mailing. Requests for this handbook should be mailed to the World's Great Novels, Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27, New York. The script you've just heard was adapted for radio by Max Ehrlich. Members of the cast included Boris Aplon as Henchard, Geraldine Kay as Elizabeth Jane, Uriel Bremner as Lucetta, William Everett as Farfrae, Wilms Herbert as Jop, and Donald Gallagher as the narrator. Others were Hilda Graham, Hope Summers, Kurt Kupfer, Cliff Norton, and Fred Sullivan. The music was composed by Emil Soderstrom and the orchestra conducted by Joseph Galicchio. The entire production was under the direction of Homer Heck. This program came to you
This
from
is Chesterton
Chicago.
Radio, the true, good, and beautiful at ChestertonRadio.com.
The world's great novels. This is the story of Michael Henchard, a man of character. He was strong and yet weak, turbulent and yet calm, hard and yet sentimental. And among the farming people of England's Wessex 100 years ago, he lived by his deeds and died by them and was judged for them. The NBC University of the Air brings you the last of a 5-part radio edition of Thomas Hardy's The Mayor of Casterbridge, another in the series of books that live, the world's great novels.
Last week, we saw Michael Henchard staggered by one disaster after another. First of all, he had lost all his money in the grain market, while his rival, Donald Farfrey, became rich. Then a black mark in his past became known to the town, and his reputation was ruined. He lost his high position as mayor, and Farfrey became mayor of Casterbridge in his place. His star spiraled still further downward when the woman he planned to marry, Lucetta Templeton, fell in love with his rival and finally eloped with Farfrey. And the final bitter blow came when he went to work for his hated rival as a common laborer. Long ago, Michael Henchard, in a drunken frenzy, had sold his wife and child. Then he had sworn an oath not to touch another drop for 21 years. Now, the time of the oath had expired, and again he took to strong drink. And as he drank at the Inn of the Three Mariners with his one-time foreman, Jop, Henchard's hatred of Donald Farfrey grew more and more inflamed, and he publicly vowed vengeance. And it was true, he still had an ace in the hole. He had been Lucetta Farfrey's lover long before Donald had known her. He had a bundle of Lucetta's love letters to prove it, and these he held over his rival's head like a club. If the town of Casterbridge came to know of it, it would ruin Lucetta, smash her marriage, and put Donald Farfrey in a difficult position. It was no wonder, then, that Lucetta seemed agitated when she spoke to her husband.
Donald, I heard the servants talking last night.
Well?
They saw Michael Henchard at the Inn of the Three Mariners. He was drinking heavily.
Well, that's his affair, Lucetta. I cannot regulate the lives of my help in their off hours.
No, dear, you don't understand. He threatened to do you harm. He hates you, Donald. He hates you.
What would you have me do, Lucetta?
Donald, can't you discharge him? Perhaps then he would leave Casterbridge.
No, Lucetta. I cannot discharge a man who was once such a good friend to me. How can I forget that when I first came here, Henchard helped me establish a footing? No, as long as I've a day's work to offer, he's welcome to it.
Then, Donald, perhaps we'd better leave Casterbridge.
What? Lucetta, have you gone daft? Why should we leave? Why, we're well off here, and doing better each day, and I'm the mayor.
But there's no telling what Mr. Henchard might do. He might even kill you.
Oh, come now. You misjudge him, Lucetta. We used to be good friends, and I know they're still good in the mon.
Lucetta Farfrey lived in an agony of suspense, day by day waiting for Henchard to reveal the letters and ruin her. Then at last she could stand it no longer. She came to see him one night.
Well, Mrs. Farfrey, good evening. But is it not imprudent to visit an old friend at this hour?
Michael, I had to see you.
Bless you, my dear. What for?
Please don't jest with me now. I must have those letters.
Ah, those letters. I was reading them last night, Lucetta. How affectionate they were. How endearing.
Michael, I can't stand it any longer. I've almost gone mad. I beg of you, in the name of everything we were to each other, give me the letters.
You asked me in the name of everything we were to each other. And in this same name you threw me over for Farfrey.
Have pity on a distressed woman, Michael. My happiness would be secure enough but for your threats. Oh, Michael, don't ruin me. Give me those letters.
I don't know. I don't know why I should.
Because I'm helpless, Michael. And you've not been found wanting to the helpless. And because I was the woman you loved, and whom you still love.
I curse you, Lucetta. I do still love you.
Because you do, you really could not bring yourself to ruin me. Could you, Michael? Could you?
No. No, I could not.
Give me the letters. Let me destroy them now.
They are not here. I have them in a safe place. But I will send them to you tomorrow.
Oh, Michael, I've misjudged you. You are good. And you really will send the letters to me tomorrow?
I may have fallen in low estate in many ways, Lucetta. But the word of Michael Henchard is still good and true.
True to his word, Michael Henchard took the letters from their hiding place. He gave them to his old foreman, Jop, to deliver. And here he made a mistake. For Henchard once had discharged Jop unfairly, and although Henchard had forgotten it, Jop had not. He had thirsted for revenge and bided his time. A casual look at the letters showed Jop how he could humiliate Henchard before the whole town by proving that he had been jilted by Lucetta. And so, instead of delivering them directly to Lucetta, he stopped at a nearby inn called Peter's Finger, a low place with a low clientele.
Well, now, Jop, me boy, that's a real precious love letter, so it is. A fine minx, this Mrs. Farfrae.
Aye, Charles. With her a-loving and a-loving Mr. Henchard, and then throwing him over for fop.
Come, Jop. Read us another letter.
Aye, let's have another
For
letter.
shame! For shame!
Oh, what's the matter
What,
with Mrs.
Mother Cookson? You don't find these here epistles entertaining? These intimate affairs they are twixt Henchard and Mrs. Farfrae. And true besides.
It be humbling thing. Aye, an insult for us as is respectable women, that one of our sex could do it. A shame and a scandal it be. I say it be good foundation for a skimity ride.
A skimity ride? You're right, Mother Cookson.
Aye, 'tis as good a ground for a skimmity ride as ever I know.
True, Christopher. The last one in Casterbridge must have been 10 years ago, if a day. It was against the widow Hedges, I recall.
Well, then, a skimmity ride it is against Mrs. Farfrae. And I'll be glad to lead it on.
Thus, certain lower elements in Casterbridge prepared an old English method of public humiliation for a brazen woman. As they poured out of the Inn of Peter's Finger, none of them noticed a stranger coming in. He was a seafaring man by the looks of him, a rather unusual sight in the corn country, and he went straight to the bar and spoke to the landlady.
Ahoy there, Mom.
Good day, sir.
All these lubbers pouring from the inn almost swamped me. What's going on?
Oh, sir, they're cooking up a skimity ride.
What's that?
Oh, an old foolish thing they do in these parts when a man's wife is, well, not too much his own.
Good thing to see, is it?
Oh, it is funny. Aye, and exciting too, sir.
Then I shall be sure to see it.
Oh, then you're going to be in Casterbridge?
2 or 3 weeks.
Seafaring man, ain't you?
Aye,
Got kith or kin in Casterbridge?
I might have. And then again, they may all be dead.
I know the town well. Who may you be looking for?
A man named Henchard, Mom.
The strangers stayed the night at the Inn of Peter's Finger. Meanwhile, the next morning, Casterbridge became a holiday town, festooned and decorated and busy with preparations. For a great event was to take place, a surprise visit of a royal personage. The council, under Donald Farfrae's urgent summons, met in emergency session to consider how best to receive the royal celebrity. The council was deep in discussion when the door to the council chamber opened.
Now, gentlemen, for the business of
Good morning, gentlemen.
Michael Henchard. What are you doing here?
Well, I thought I'd like to join you in this reception of our illustrious visitor.
I hardly see that it would be proper, Michael.
And why not Mr. Farfrae? Why not Mr. Mayor?
The consul are the consul, and the only body with authority to meet royalty in an official way. And you are not the member of the council.
Look here, Farfrae. I was mayor of this town long before you came here, and I'm going to greet His Highness with the rest of you. You hear, Farfrae?
Look here, Henchard. You've been drinking. You don't know what you're saying.
I know what I am saying, you young jackanapes. You've done me in enough without humiliating me now. I said I'm going to meet His Highness, and I'm not going to be sat on by you, Farfrae, or the rest of this paltry crew.
Henchard, I ask you to leave this council chamber.
And I'll not leave, you hear? I'll not leave.
Then I regret to say we'll have to put you out forcefully. Bailiff?
Aye, Mayor.
Show Mr. Henchard to the door and see that he does not come in again.
Aye, Mr. Farfrae. Come along, Henchard.
You'll not get away with this, Farfrae. Mark me. You've done your last blow to me. I'll see you repay for this. I'll see you repay for this.
The reception took place, and Henchard saw it with the rest of the unprivileged onlookers. Then, in the early evening, as Donald Farfrae was preparing to go to Budmouth on a business trip, he received a message saying that someone wanted to see him at the North Granary. Since this barn was on the road to Budmouth, Farfrae decided that he would make the stop. Accordingly, he entered the semi-gloom of the big barn to find Henchard awaiting him in the high loft, to which he quickly climbed.
Now then, Henchard, what are you doing up here?
You and me are going to square accounts, Farfrae.
What do you mean by that?
You should have thought twice before making me eat humble pie before the council. I've stood your rivalry, which ruined me, and your stealing of Lucetta, which left me alone. But you're disgracing me and making me a laughingstock. I will not stand.
But you had no business at the council meeting.
As much as any among you. I was mayor for many years. The gall of a stripling like you, telling me what I might or might not do.
'Twas my duty as chief magistrate to stop you. But I'm not here to argue.
No? Well, I am.
In what way?
You see this loft, Farfrae? It's 4 square, and about the size of a wrestling ring. There be the open door, and it be 40 feet down to the barn floor. One of us two is going to throw the other out that door. The master, the better man, stays inside.
Henchard, you're daft.
Aye. Daft to hear your bones crack when I toss you through that door. Put up your hands, Farfrae.
The two men fought silently like animals. Farfrae was faster and more supple, but Henchard had the strength of a bull made twofold by his rage. They rocked and writhed like trees in a gale, first one having the advantage, then the other. Then, finally, Henchard slammed Farfrae to the floor so that his head hung over space through the open door.
No. No, Farfrae, I've got you. One little push, and down you go.
Aye, here's the advantage.
This is the end of what you did to me this morning. I have your life in my hands.
Then take it. Take it, Henchard. You've wished too long enough.
No, Donald. No. Be not true. Once I loved you as my own son. No man ever loved another as I loved thee.
Enough of words. Throw me down and be cursed to you.
No, Donald, I cannot. I came here to kill you. I thought I could, but now I cannot. Go. Have me arrested. Do what you will. I care nothing for what comes of me now.
Henchard let Farfrae up, and in shame and remorse flung himself on some grain sacks in a corner. Farfrae regarded him in silence, then climbed down the ladder and left for Budmouth. And there Henchard stayed till darkness came, like an animal afraid to face the light. Meanwhile, at Donald Farfrey's home, his wife Lucetta was alone, and Elizabeth Jane, Henchard's stepdaughter, had come over to keep her company. As they sat there sewing, they suddenly heard a disturbance on the street outside.
Elizabeth Jane, listen. What is it? I don't know, Mrs. Farfrey. It seems to be coming from up Corn Street. What an awful din. Wait, I will open the window. Elizabeth Jane, what is it? It's a skimmity ride. They use it to publicly disgrace an unfaithful woman. What? Elizabeth Jane, are they coming to this house? Yes. Yes, they've stopped in front of it. Oh, Mrs. Farfrey, don't look out of the window. I must. They mean me. See that effigy riding on their donkey? It's me. Mrs. Farfrey, why doesn't somebody stop this cruel affair? Why doesn't somebody stop it? Oh, Mrs. Farfrey, let me shut the window, please. Don't look. No, they mean me. That effigy riding there is me, even my green parasol. They found out. They know about Mr. Henchard and me, and now they're blackening my name. Farfrey, in the name of heaven. None of us mustn't say it. None of us mustn't say it. Elizabeth Jane, if we see this, we're both ruined. We'll be... Oh, Mrs. Farfrey! Mrs. Farfrey!
Lucetta Farfrey fell heavily to the floor in a dead faint. And as she fell away from the window, the din stopped like the rustle of a spent wind, and the crowd dispersed. It was apparent now that she had suffered a serious stroke, and Elizabeth ran out in Corn Street to fetch the doctor. It was then that she met her stepfather, Michael Henchard, coming back from the barn. She told him what happened, and Henchard raced towards Farfrey's stable to pick up a horse and summon Farfrey back to his home. Finally, Henchard caught up to the young Scot almost on the outskirts of Butler.
Donald! Donald, wait!
Oh, so it's you, Henchard. What do you want now?
You've got to return to Casterbridge at once, Donald. There's something wrong at your house.
Aye, I can believe that. What you want is a chance for another set to in some dark wood.
Farfrey, listen, I tell you the truth. Your wife, she's ill. She needs you.
Indeed. I don't believe you.
But, man, for the love of heaven, you've got to believe me. I know 'tis true. I've treated you badly. But now I come on your account, and your wife's. She needs you.
I have business in Budmouth, Mr. Henchard. Good night.
Henchard returned to report his failure. Meanwhile, Lucetta Farfrey sank lower and lower, calling vainly for her husband. Another man was dispatched and brought Farfrey home post-haste, the young Scot cursing himself for not believing Henchard. And then, early the next morning, Michael Henchard came to the Farfrey home to see how Lucetta was faring. As he approached the door, he saw a servant come out and begin to untie the piece of cloth that muffled the door knocker.
I beg your pardon, Mum.
Oh, it's you, Mr. Henchard.
Aye. But why are you taking off that cloth from the knocker? Someone may come and knock for entrance and thus disturb Mrs. Farfrey.
No, Mr. Henchard. They may knock as loud as they will, but Mrs. Farfrey will never hear any more.
With dragging footsteps, Michael Henchard went back to his cottage. There was a cold, empty void within him. Lucetta Farfrey had meant much to him. She had come closer to his heart than any other woman. Now he was alone except for Elizabeth Jane, and even she was not of his own blood. An hour later, as Henchard sat before the fire, there was a knock at his door.
Come in.
Good morning. Is it Mr. Henchard I'm talking to?
Aye. My name be Henchard.
Ah. Then may I have a few words with you?
Come in, come in.
You may remember me.
No, I cannot recall as I do.
Well, no wonder. It was a long time ago. My name is Newson.
Newson? Richard Newson?
Aye. You know me now, eh?
I remember now. You are the sailor to whom I sold my wife Susan and Elizabeth Jane.
Aye.
But they said you were dead. Lost at sea.
They thought I were, but I've come back, as you see. Tell me, how is Susan?
Susan? She be dead.
I feared it, I feared it. And my daughter, Elizabeth Jane, where is she?
She be dead too.
Poor little thing. Well, then the journey here has been for nothing. I might as well go back from whence I came.
You mean you are not staying here in Casterbridge any longer?
No. No, what would be the use of it? Well, thank you, Mr. Enchert. I'll not trouble you any further.
When Newson had gone, Henchard sat there amazed at what he had done. Elizabeth Jane, although not his real daughter, was all he had left in the world, and he had spoken mad lies to keep her near him. Someday, Newson would find the truth and return to Casterbridge. As the weeks went by, Henchard became thin and gaunt. He took to staring up the Budmouth Road, expecting any moment to see the figure of a merchant sailor coming down. His health failed, and his once powerful strength began to ebb from him. And then, one day, his door opened.
Elizabeth Jane.
Aye, Father.
Come in, Elizabeth. What brings you here?
Father, I want to stay here with you.
With me?
If you want me. If you need me.
If I need... Oh, Elizabeth, do not mock me.
Father.
I have been so lonesome. But my dear, I have so little to offer.
Oh, Father, I don't mind your being poor. I'll live with you and take care of you and love you like I used to do.
But listen, Jane. What can I say? I thought he in heaven above had forsaken me. Yet I seem to be in somebody's hand after all.
For a time, Michael Henchard lived in some semblance of happiness. He was like a man lifted up. He shaved every day, put on clean linen, and combed his hair. And the people of Casterbridge even began to look upon him with some of their old respect. But then, the evil shadow that had haunted him clouded his star again. On a visit to the neighboring town of Budmouth, he passed by the inn and saw inside a man in the uniform of a merchant captain. It was Richard Newson, and Henchard knew the game was up. Newson had discovered the fraud and was coming back to claim Elizabeth Jane. From that time on, Michael Henchard was dead inside. He hurried back to Casterbridge and sought out his stepdaughter.
I am going to leave Casterbridge, Elizabeth Jane.
Leave Casterbridge? And leave me?
There is nothing left for me here. I would rather get out into the country and follow my own ways.
But, Father...
It is no use, my dear. My mind's made up.
I'm sorry you decided on this. But then, Father, you will not be here for the wedding.
Wedding? What wedding?
Mr. Fairfax has asked me to marry him. And I have said yes.
I see.
Father, I know how much you blame him for all that's happened to you. But I ask you now, I beg of you now, will you give us your blessing?
Elizabeth Jane. It was meant by some higher power that Donald Farfrae should take everything I had. I am only a man and a fool to fight destiny. Aye, daughter, I'll give him a blessing. Marry him and be happy.
Father. Father.
Goodbye, Elizabeth Jane. Goodbye, my dear. And God bless you.
And so it was that Michael Henchard walked out of the town of Casterbridge carrying the tools of a hay trusser just as he had come into it many years ago. Down the same dusty road he walked, with a heavy weight on his heart and with half-muttered words on his lips.
Everywhere folks be dying afore their time, though wanted by their loved ones. While I, Michael Henchard, who was once Mayor of Casterbridge, I, who am an outcast, wanted by none, despised by all, live on against my will.
They found him, later, dead upon the road, and buried him at its side. And inscribed upon the stone were the words of the last will and testament written by Michael Henchard as he was dying. And there, standing on the Wessex earth, which Michael Henchard had loved so well, Elizabeth Jane, with her husband at her side, read the inscription.
This be my last testament and will, that none be made to grieve on account of me, that I be not buried in consecrated ground, that no sexton be asked to toll the bell, that nobody is asked to see my dead
body, that no mourners walk behind me at my funeral, that no flowers be planted on my grave, and that no man remember me. To this I put my name, Michael Henchard.
With this concluding chapter of The Mayor of Casterbridge, we come to an end of our second season of the world's great novels, an NBC University of the Air feature. We leave the air for the summer with the hope that you've enjoyed these dramatizations and that you'll again be with us when our literary series is resumed in the fall. In the meantime, we invite you to listen during the summer to the program which will occupy this half hour over many of these same stations. Based on material from the files of the State Department, it will be entitled Tales of the Foreign Service, and will bring you true stories of the men who serve our nation abroad. The Mayor of Casterbridge was adapted for radio by Max Ehrlich. Members of the cast included Boris Aplon as Henchard, Geraldine Kay as Elizabeth Jane, Muriel Bremner as Lucetta, William Everett as Farfrae, and Donald Gallagher as the narrator. Others were Hilda Graham, Hope Summers, Wilms Herbert, Kurt Kupfer, Cliff Norton, and Fred Sullivan. The music was composed by Emil Soderstrom, and the orchestra conducted by Joseph Galicchio. The entire production was under the direction of Homer Heck. This program came to you from Chicago. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.